Okay, let's start with the rapid fire round. So the first question is, at what age do you want to retire?
Ah, I'd say 60, 65.
How long does it take you to get ready in the mornings?
Very quick. 20 minutes?
Most embarrassing moment of your life?
Maybe a slippery floor when I was skiing.
Favorite color?
Blue.
What time of day are you most inspired?
By night, late.
How many hours of sleep can you survive on?
I need a lot. 7, 8.
The city in which the best kiss of your life happened?
Paris, of course. I live in Paris.
Pick one, Mark Zuckerberg or Elon Musk.
That's a complicated one. Zuckerberg.
How do you relax?
Sports.
How many cups of coffee do you drink per day?
Too much. Too many. 4, 5.
A habit of yours that you hate?
Maybe being too tough for myself.
The most valuable skill you've learned in life?
Listening.
Your favorite Netflix show?
Casa de Papel.
Are you an early riser or a night owl?
Night owl, definitely.
One word description of your leadership style?
Human.
Coffee or tea to kickstart your day?
I already said it. Coffee.
Top priority in your daily schedule?
Martini.
Ideal vacation spot for relaxation?
Anywhere with a beach.
Key factor for maintaining a work-life balance?
Disconnect when you go out of work.
So people keep talking about beauty tech and L'Oréal being the leader, but what does that actually mean in simple English?
In simple language. So yeah, actually Beauty Tech is a transformation program that has been launched in 2018, 2019. Basically, it tends to think on how to put technology at the service of our transformation from the inside. So that program actually started with a huge IT transformation, but it also gave birth to new teams that actually build AI or cutting edge technologies into our digital products to augment our employees, but also our consumers to offer them the best experience they could have on our platforms while they are consuming our products.
And what's a real-world AI project you're working on at L'Oréal right now?
So yeah, as I said, there are too many of them, but I can talk about two different categories. The first one to augment employees, as I said. We actually worked on different type of products, for example, with marketing, with legal, with research and innovation. If I take one example of marketing, L'Oreal is actually the fourth biggest spender in advertising in the world. So when you're putting that much money to advertise your products, you really want to make sure that you are having the ROI of that spend, and each penny that you're spending is bringing value. So we actually worked on a product that we call BetIQ, that actually help the brands to split their budget of advertisement and to optimize it to maximize the ROI. And let's imagine you are one brand of L'Oreal, you have 1 million to spend. When you come to the tool, we use this component called Optimizer, which is built on top of some statistic technology called mixed marketing modeling. And it allows you actually to split your budget and put it on the right channel, Meta, Instagram, publicity over the bus, whatever, to maximize the ROI and the ROI and the sellout that you're going to have. Second, so that was for to augment the employees. But second part is to augment our consumers and their journey when they are on top of our platforms, and how do we enhance actually their experience. So we actually build a lot of services for consumers. It can go from virtual try on, these technologies that enables you to try or makeup products or skincare or hair coloration on your phone directly without trying the real physical product.
And I guess data is like the foundation for everything AI. How do you actually build a system that works today but won't fall apart when the future shows up?
So, as you said, you can't build resilient, scalable, and great AI products if you don't have the underlying layer, which is the data. It has been the biggest challenge actually when we started these kind of use cases. We invested a lot in the group on our data platform that is fully deployed in GCP, Google Cloud. Um, and the problem that we had is that you have multiple sources of data, different forms, different format, and different quality levels. So before you start making any software, you need to make sure that you have the right data quality and to start by assessing that before going forward. So what we've done there is we invested a lot into the platform, but also into the data governance team that are owning those data concepts and those data pipelines and defining what are the objects, how should we collect them, what are the transformations. And once you've done that, then you can build your models or fine tune your models on top of that and create the real application you're looking for. So yeah, we started from the beginning, which is like the data sources, the quality. How do you put that in a platform? And then what are the tooling to create your AI layer that's going to augment your applications?
And then what's the secret to keeping data clean and trustworthy?
That's a very tough question because until now we are actually facing challenges with that because there is always a human factor. And actually, I think personally that the data governance is key to that. Having standards in how you process and how you actually put your data in the platform is also very important. So there is a huge human and governance factor, but also the fact that you're going to build your platform on top of some data engineering standards, replicate your data engineering pipelines, having the same framework across use cases to make sure that you're not going to have multiple points of failure. But again, you can't take out the human factor out of that because data quality can be checked technically, but you need somebody who is expert in that data domain to say at the end of the pipeline, is my data accurate or not? So that's why we have a huge data governance team that is doing an amazing job to make sure that it's still happening.
So we are living in the world of makeup try-ons, augmented reality, virtual reality, personalized skincare apps. The beauty industry is changing fast. How do you build tech that makes customers happy but still feels like L'Oreal and not just some random app?
So again, um, it's about doing first things first. Um, you're not going to be able to offer the best virtual try on. For example, if I take this example, which is like one of our hero products, and offer it to the different brands of the L'Oréal Group if you don't have the underlying layers. What we're trying to do is that in these teams that build these products, for example, Virtual Try-On is built in collaboration with Modiface, which is a startup we acquired based in Toronto, which is, by the way, the board leader of Virtual Try-On. We are organized in the product mode. So we keep our iteration cycles very short. We need to enable these teams to be able to experiment, to fail, and to learn so that we can put very quickly something in the hands of the consumers and collect that feedback. So I'm going to use this image of our CEO. The L'Oréal Group is a kind of a dinosaur, but with a unicorn on its head, because we are a use group that has more than 100-year old, but we are also having in some areas this agility that a unicorn can have to be able to create spot on products and ship them very quickly on the market.
And so cloud's been around for a while, but what's new in 2025? What trends are really flipping how big companies run their infrastructure?
So actually, the journey with cloud have been very interesting. I know when I took that shift in my personal career in the 2010s years, where cloud was becoming a thing and DevOps also was becoming a thing. So at the beginning, people were more worried about how can I move fast to the cloud because they were feeling that they were missing something. So a lot of people were just doing shift and left. projects, taking applications from their data centers and then migrating them to cloud platforms. What happened there is people actually didn't have the right benefits of the cloud because they ended up having more complex environments in the cloud. And specifically, it was super costly because you were using the same architecture on VMs, let's say. So when you realize that you're paying way too much, it's already too late. So the key there, the second step was how do I architect my application in a cloud native way to take advantage of the high availability mechanism, the elasticity of the cloud, the pay per use mechanisms. So that's what we have been shifting to. And then there was this time of, having more and more platforms. So if I take the example of the L'Oréal use case, and in my teams, I personally don't have in my technical strategy to use any VMs anymore because our mission as a L'Oréal Group is not to manage infrastructure, but to provide the right products to our consumer, but to build the right services and the right tooling without consuming too much time on managing infrastructure. So now you have more and more offers for platform as a service that are super augmented. You can do a lot of stuff without managing the underlying technical layers. I'll take all like few examples like Cloud Run, Elastic being on AWS. It allows you actually to focus on what does matter for you. So creating business value. So I would say that's the trend is that more and more people are shifting up, I would say, to concentrate more on their applications and not on the underlying layers. Then you're gonna take more advantage of the cloud technologies. It's gonna be more cost efficient because you're on a model of pay per use. And you are actually going to concentrate on really building your software and not deploying infra, patching infra, securing infra.
So, which cloud native tools are about to become must haves?
Actually, it's already there. So if you take any cloud provider, you have all type of services. But for me, the PaaS services, so the platform as a service, is a must-have for a company that is offering something that is not tech as a business model. I'm not an infrastructure company, so I'm very happy to use those services. For me, it's a must. Second thing is all the AI and Gen AI features that have been integrated also into the cloud provider. You can take the observability mechanism and the softwares and tooling that are being integrated directly into the cloud providers. So today, if you take any cloud provider, you can use their Gen AI mechanism to help you, for example, solve a bug, track an incident very quickly. So that's becoming a real must because you can't today. You don't have the luxury to spend that much time to try to find the root cause. I think that's very promising because it's really reducing the time to resolve of our incidents.
So, container orchestration and Kubernetes have become standard, but what advanced patterns or practices do you implement to maximize their potential?
I'm gonna surprise you. Maybe my pattern is to not use them. Not use them. I'm not saying that we should not use them, but not use them directly. And back to the point I was stating earlier, I'm saying that because managing a Kubernetes cluster is very heavy and it needs some specific skills. Um, and actually, I don't want my team to spend 40%, 30% of their bandwidth and their energy managing a cluster. So, yeah, that's where you can shift up and concentrate on layers that are more application oriented. Take the example of Elastic Beans or Cloud Run. It is a cluster of Kubernetes underneath, but you don't see it because you don't manage it. It's managed for you. So my job is to create the best software, not to manage the best infrastructure. So yeah, I think that the pattern that we have been pushing in the group, and again, we should not have a general rule for everything. Of course, there might be some specific use cases where is smarter and more relevant to still use a Kubernetes cluster, but for 80% of the use cases, you don't need it. You can use a Cloud Run, Elastic Beans. It's still Kubernetes beneath, but you don't manage it directly. But containers, yeah, now you have multiple containers technologies. Docker is not the only one on the landscape. but those are very, very important. All of our DevOps mechanism, all of our scaling and high availability mechanism are built around containers. So yeah, it's going to still be a trend in the coming years.
How do you stop container costs from spiraling out of control?
Yeah. So actually, by doing what I just said, the question before, if you are using a platform as a service, it's by design a platform where we are doing a pay-per-use concept. So if you're having a cluster of Kubernetes that is running on YAS, so on infrastructure, on VMs, you have the elasticity, but it's limited to the number of nodes. You can scale extra nodes, but you don't have. I mean, you can put some controls over it, but you're paying for those VMs, the minimum of them, either you're using them or not. When you're using a platform as a service, I can put my minimum and my maximum very wide, but actually I'm going to pay only for the containers that I'm spanning, not for the underlying VMs. So for me, that's the key, is the pattern of architecture you put behind.
So, this buzzword, platform engineering, keeps popping up. What's your take? How do you build platforms that developers actually love using?
Yeah, totally. So platform engineering is becoming more and more, yeah, relevant when you are doing and developing your own software. You're going to have more and more products, more and more squads, more and more dependencies, interaction between those squads and the components they're building. So imagine it this way. If you are a new developer joining a squad in a team, when you're being onboarded, imagine this situation where you need to meet few people. You need to get access to multiple repos. You need to get access to this IPA, and then the documentation is on this workspace, and that other documentation is on Confluence, and the API gateway is somewhere else. So the onboarding is very painful. So you're losing some efficiency, and you're having some frictions between the different squads. So platform engineering is not only some tooling or patterns or reusable building blocks. It's also a mindset. And we should start from there. When you have the right mindset, you have the right people, the tooling will follow, and then the delivery will follow. So for me, it's the whole. Um, and having in platform engineering being, materialized in a platform portal, developer portal, where your developer is going to have access to every component he needs, every standards he needs to read, every documentation, every API swagger, all the building blocks of the documentation and the access he need are going to be centralized in the same area. So it's going to be very efficient and very quick to onboard. So one of the KPI I'm trying to monitor is what I call the time to first push, is the time that passes between when you onboard the developer and the moment he's able to push his first comment. And we can see that the more you're going to be oriented in a platform engineering approach, the more that time is going to shrink. So the more your developer is going to be happy working on that software, and the less friction are you going to have with the team. So all of these are actually going to have a very beneficial impact on your time to market, your consumer satisfaction, and also the business value that you're creating with those teams.
So, do you think the job of a technical architect completely changed now that AI is everywhere? What shifts are you noticing in how systems are built?
Yeah. So the job of technical architect did change a bit. It didn't change that much, but architects are more enabled now with AI, and they have some mindset shift to operate in their way of designing a software. Designing a software with AI is not the same as designing a software without AI. So two things on the architect's work itself. He is augmented with multiple tooling, to be able to iterate, to test fast, to prototype, and to make sure that his designs are relevant. And when it comes to what he is designing, when you're building an AI-based application or LLM-based application, when it comes to Gen AI, there are some um, new blocks that he needs to integrate in his way of thinking and designing. Let's take an example of an LLM-based application, a chatbot. That kind of applications cannot be delivered and tested the same way. You need to integrate the concept of LLM evaluations because it's a non-deterministic application. So We used to, to how to do our QA and how to design our QA was just by, when you give an input that is A, you expect an output that is B, and when you test that, you know that you have a regression or not. You cannot apply that actually to a non-deterministic application. So all of these components that are brought in by AI needs to be onboarded and shipped into the design phase. You also need actually to apply the same agility and the same mindset that we require from developers. If you are able to release and ship fast 2 times a week, your architects need to be integrated also on that workflow to have the same mindset, to iterate fast and to be onboarded with these squads. So it's not a revolution, but that layer, transversal layer of AI, it actually adds some new components that the technical architect need to take into consideration.
So, how do you chase all these innovations without breaking reliability?
Um, I think that we are doing that pretty well at Loya because we kind of give time and space to our teams for innovation. What I mean by that is you can either do it through your use cases or to dedicate real time to pure research. We have a lab, for example, that is embedded in our Modiface team in Toronto. And these teams are working 100% on elementary and fundamental research when it comes to AI, to computer vision, to NLP. But also, you can do it through your use cases, and for that, you need to be able to ship fast and to iterate fast. So you need to have all the products mechanisms and the DevOps mechanisms in place for your team to be able to fail fast, try things, not be afraid of breaking stuff because you know that you can iterate very easily. And that actually will help you try new approaches, new technologies without breaking something in production because that's what scares everyone.
So, L'Oreal talks a lot about sustainability as well. How do you make sure your tech strategy is green and still supports all the AI and personalization people want?
Yeah, that's a very strategic question for us. We are super driven by the business value we can create with what we do, but we are super. We give us like a very high importance to sustainability topics and how do we integrate that in our software design. So there are actually two things. What we call eco design is something that we assess our use cases on you during our design authorities, enterprise architecture. So we need to make sure very early in the design phase that the way we're building that architecture and that software is done with an eco design, meaning that let's take the example between having a cluster of Kubernetes on VMs and having a PaaS platform that span containers for you, it doesn't have the same impact. And it is directly correlated to the cost. So when you're doing your FinOps directly, you're also doing your GreenOps correctly. So by design in our tech strategy, we will always go for the GreenOps options, and the other options will be only exceptions when needed. Second, we also monitor very closely our electricity and our carbon consumption through dashboarding with the cloud providers, but we also pay attention to the regions uh, where we host our applications. So if you compare, like if you take any cloud provider, all the regions doesn't have don't have the same carbon impact. So if you have two regions with the same catalog of services, we will by design take the one that is consuming less. Sometimes it's not always possible because all the regions are not equivalent in terms of service catalog. But when it's possible, which is the kind I think 60-70% of the time, we always take the greener one.
So, digital transformation sounds cool, but it often flops or fails. How do you make sure that shiny new tech actually delivers business value and people use it?
Good question. By doing it the other way. um, we all made this mistake of starting from the tech innovation and try to find use cases for it. But then you end up always with solutions looking out for problems, as a colleague of mine says. Um, I would quote Steve Jobs on this one because one of the biggest learning that he stated in his end of career is you should always start from your consumer need and consumer journey and work backwards to the technology. That's the only way to make sure that you will always build solutions that are spot on answering a business need. It happened few times in my career where, everybody wants the new shiny toys. So I don't care about the use case or the ROI. I want GenAI this application. And then you try to find how you implement it. You can do that, to implement some stuff to play with and have a POC and make your opinion. But if you're looking to really be spot on and answer real business needs and have real business value augmented by tech, you should do it backwards.
And how do you then explain, these complex tech to marketing folks so that they get it?
I actually have to do that quite often in my job. And the thing I learned, L'Oréal is becoming quite a big tech company now, but it's still very marketing oriented. And of course, sometimes we have some very interesting discussion with the marketing folks. And we are very passionate about what we do and the tech we put in place. But you can speak as long as you want about the tech. If you don't explain to the person in front of you what he has to gain in it, you're not going to impact him the right way. So if you're talking to marketing people, you need to be very specific about what this solution and what this tech is going to do for him in his process. What is the ROI behind? How is it going to change his time to market? How it's going to make an uplift on his sellout, for example. So you need always to do that translation between the technical solution you're implemented and the business value it's creating. It's not always easy to do, but it's fundamental to communicate with marketing.
So, in beauty tech, you need to experiment fast, but also keep it reliable at enterprise scale. How do you pull that off?
So actually, when I got in L'Oréal, my first job was to take care of the engineering for the tech accelerator, which was kind of the group startup that builds AI-based application. And the first thing that we started with is to build what I call our technical foundations and platform engineering. That is actually all the tooling, all the architecture patterns, all the processes, all the building blocks and assets that are going to allow you to have a full DevOps and full product strategy in place, meaning that I want to minimize the time spent between when my developer is pushing the code, how I'm going to test that technically, how I'm going to test that functionally, doing my security audits, packaging, and then deploying. This pipeline used to take multiple days before. Now, with the right technologies and with the right architecture, with the DevOps principles, we are able to deploy to QA multiple times a day and to production up to 2, 3 times a week, which allow you to iterate fast and you can put something in the hand of your consumers and then collect feedback, or your business and then collect feedback. So that's the key. People mindset, the right tooling and the right architecture in place to be able to iterate fast and fail fast to learn fast.
So, I guess these days, speed to market is everything. How do you design systems that let you test and learn super fast?
So it's actually very related to what I said earlier. You have always three components. For me, it's the mindset and the people, the tooling of having, the DevOps mechanisms, your underlying strategy of DevOps. And third is the architecture. So if you have a huge monolithic with big dependencies, it's always very complicated to ship and to spot, the impact when you're touching uh, uh, an area of that software. You don't know where it's going to break. So having the right modular and cloud native architecture, having the right DevOps processes, and the right people with the right mindset.
How do you protect privacy while doing all this advanced analytics?
So privacy is a very important component of our assessment processes. So whenever we are starting a new use case, um, it will always have the data privacy involved in. So they proceed with an audit to check if it's needed, to take a deeper look into what we are doing to assess the kind of data we're collecting. So yeah, we give a kind of a big attention to data privacy before we start the use case. And when you are prototyping something, our data platform has different tiers and different classifications for criticality of data and confidentiality. So some kind of data you're not allowed to prototype with because you're on a prototype environment. We have also some strategies also, to not move data from a production environment to non-production environment. So yeah, it comes with some governance, but also with some technical rules.
So, what does your typical day look like? You wake up in the morning and then
And then I take a quick shower, as I said, 20 minutes to get ready. I go to work. I usually take my priorities, which is like you having the hot topics with my teams. I always try to have 1 or 2 hours blocked in my agenda during my day to be hands-on. Um, Personally believe that as a CTO, if you stop being hands-on, you will lose relevancy very quickly. And the rest of the day is multiple meetings with architects, with head of engineering, sometimes with business, with the CIOs. So yeah, very busy day.
so quantum computing is creeping closer. How are you preparing for it in your strategy?
Um, Good question. So it's for sure one of the trend we are seeing coming. We know that it's going to be there some point. Personally, I believe that all the compute area and the compute power is going to be revolutionized by this. Um, what is going to happen there is two type of topics, and they're different. One of them is it's going to completely change our way of calculation and compute, of doing calculation and compute. So, for example, if you are fine tuning a model or training a model, and it's taking you maybe a few days, an LLM can take multiple days or week with a large cost to train the model today, that's going to be compressed a lot. So we might need to invent, because we're still not there, to invent that middle layer between the infrastructure and the models with frameworks that are adapted to quantum computing and not CPU based computing. And a second topic is more about cybersecurity, because main of our cybersecurity mechanism and protection today, like SSL certificates, all the encryption mechanisms, are built in a way where when we designed them, we were safe from brute force attacks, because we knew that it's going to take thousands of years for a normal computer to break that. It's not going to be the case anymore with the quantum computing. That's going to get down to multiple of hours, maybe minutes, in some people. So I know that there are a lot of cybersecurity research going on today to invent the mechanisms of tomorrow. I'm following that closely. Um, for now, there are some ideas, but nothing with real applications. But we need to pay attention to that in the coming years, because I mean, it's going to have an indirect impact on us, but I think that it's going to be diffused by our cloud providers, because they're going to be the first ones to implement those mechanisms. So yeah, to be followed.
Looking at the next 5 years, then, what tech is going to totally reshape beauty? And how's L'Oreal getting ready?
Well, quantum computing is one of them for sure. And it's going to change a lot in terms of use cases, in terms of how you secure your application. There is also a use case that I forgot to mention with L'Oréal is, today with our research and innovation teams, we also do some formulation in laboratory to find the future molecules. And today, these teams are already augmented with some AI models to help them formulate molecules in the laboratory. That's going to be augmented also by quantum computing tomorrow, for sure. I don't know how, but it's going to. Um, the second trend is, I think people think it's the trend of now. It is, but it's Gen AI, and actually we are still at the beginning. I'm personally convinced that we are still at the beginning of the wave of Gen AI. we start seeing, some relevant applications, but a lot of companies are still struggling with the economic model and how to monetize those applications. But I'm pretty sure that with the speed of research we're having on LLM, with how those models are converging toward an AGI maybe in the coming years, I'm sure that it's going to be still in the center of our innovation. And there are a lot of areas that are going to be disrupted by this. When you think about L'Oréal as an example, our consumer journey is for sure going to be totally disrupted. How do we follow up our finance? How do we do our marketing? It's starting, but I'm sure that we're going to keep seeing some good innovations coming in the next years.
All right. So the last question for you is of a personal kind. What would you be doing in your life if not this?
Might surprise you, but I would be doing geeky stuff. Anyway, yeah, I'm actually very lucky to um, do a job that I'm passionate about. So if I was not doing this job today, I'm for sure I would be building a software with an idea with a friend or something. But yeah, you should stay around the techie areas. Hi, my name is Moutia Khatiri, and I am the CTO of Online and Omnisales IT team at L'Oréal Group. Catch me on the Technologist of the Month show.